Yeah. So again, welcome tonight for coming. I just want to quickly introduce who will be speaking with us today about working together and if it really works. Denise Perry, who is a relationship manager from Arts Council England, working with the South East and the East region. We've got Rosie Hefford from Surrey Dance Collective. We've got Helen Parler, who's a dance artist and choreographer working in the Milton Keynes area. We have Min King, who is from the former Movement 12 in Brighton, and Kyla Booth-Lucking, who is from the Oxford Dance Forum. And I will now lead you to it.
Well, thanks for that. And what's this has come about really because we've been talking about working together, and obviously there's these fantastic examples across the region of people working together. It is a huge region, and how do we support you to stay and make fantastic work in the region and carve out a good career in dance here? So it's led to lots of discussions, and we think know what you want best, and really it's really good when something is peer-led and you guys know what you'd like to do and how you'd like to do it. There's been quite a lot of talk about how the new future is working together, from everything from car sharing and even sharing houses through Airbnb and stuff like that. And what is useful about today is about hearing about different experiences in different parts of the region, with different resources, different people on the ground, and a completely different way of setting up and working together. So I thought it would be really good to get started and start with basics, really, of how you got started with each organisation before we get into real sort of more deeper questions, because each organisation, each setup is very different. So I don't know if you'd like to start.
So Surrey Dance Collective is in Surrey, obviously, and we set up in 2011, and it came out of a fundraising CPD workshop, actually led by Denise, that was talking artists through how to get funding, and we decided we wanted experience and contacts before we could sort of start to apply for funding and different things. So in October in 2011 we set up as an unincorporated association, really long title, legal structure, and that was with 12 dance artists from the region. And we've now grown to 46 members. The numbers kind of go up and down in the 40 region, depending on people moving out and things like that. But we're really there to support, develop and promote professional dance activity in the county. We're run by a committee, and that committee is currently 8 members that meet fairly regularly to decide what the activity that we're going to produce is. And then there's a chair and a treasurer and a secretary, so I'm the chair of the collective at the moment. Shall I go on to our programme? The immediate thing that we did was apply for a long CPD program, and it's all based on the idea of really being able to articulate what artists as producers, as teachers, as choreographers, because at the time we really weren't that good at it. Hopefully we're a bit better at it now. So we're still completing that CPD. It's been going for 18 months now. And what it included was guest teachers who led professional class and did a day workshop on their practice. Portfolio training days, which was basically days on engaging with different types of community members, so boys dance or intergenerational dance or dance with mental health, things like that. What we called artistic voice panels, which South East Dance were involved with, and we've had a few of those, so they're opportunities for people to sort of discuss their artistic voice with a select panel and then try and pitch themselves. So it's practicing pitching yourself, basically. We've had commissions. We just completed one with Helen, who's sitting next to me, and we've also worked with Gary Clark, Heidi Westgard, and Henri Aguico for a couple of days to make pieces. And what that was about was exploring an artist's practice in more depth. We've had rehearsal space at Surrey Arts and at G Live. G Live in Guildford's quite a big venue that we've developed a really great relationship with, and have held scratch performances there before kind of bigger shows like the Ballet Boys and Ballet Black. That's been really great to get new audiences to see our work, so sort of between 4 and 6 members would get to share bits. And we've got another one on Thursday if anyone wants to come see. And then we've also had bursaries for mentoring, so members could apply to have a mentoring day with an artist of their choice. So that's the programme that's just about to finish, and where we're up to, and we're just looking at what we want to do next as a group and how we can do that.
Thanks. It's quite interesting because when I met with the artists in Surrey, they were very much at a similar age, but starting a working career. So it felt like it's a natural opportunity for you to work. Yeah. And I know that obviously you're much further on now because you've been doing it for 18 months. So I guess really it's on to Helen, who's a little bit more grassroots, isn't it? You haven't had a major funding bid.
No, I mean I think I'm sort of coming from it perhaps from a slightly different angle as a kind of individual artist who has based themselves in Milton Keynes. I've missed lots of kind of, my peers saying, why are you still in Milton Keynes? What are you doing in Milton Keynes? Move to London and do all this kind of thing. I said, oh no, I'm quite enjoying being outside of London and finding, actually investing in my sort of local community and finding ways of working in that environment. So I've sort of spent since sort of 2006, perhaps even before then, living and working sort of full time in Milton Keynes and trying to collaborate and create a dance scene in that area where there's none. And are and the interest levels for dance, and we created a dance festival in 2012 and we're doing another one this summer as well. So my kind of work has been really collaborative, working with various organisations in Milton Keynes and kind of nationally, but trying to bring those people back into Milton Keynes somehow to kind of still grow the environment in that area. So I sort of collaborate with the Milton Keynes Gallery quite a lot. We used to collaborate a lot with the theatre, kind of youth dance commissions, of which we probably have like 20 odd that have gone on to full-time professional training and now are coming back into the area and creating work, and a company which is part of dance, which is great. And we've worked with the gallery a lot with their MK Calling exhibition with promenade performances that have taken place, which are free performances, which we've kind of got over 100 people coming to watch, performance. We work with Fringe MK and the IF Festival. So it's taken a long time to get those kind of relationships going, but I think with a lot of hard work and rigour, we've managed to connect those things together and have created an environment of interest within dance in Milton Keynes.
So how many artists do you think are actually based in that area that are engaging?
It's very hard to say. We just I've just been working with Rosemary Leaf as a researcher she's coming to do a commission for the International Festival in Milton Keynes, where she needed 100 participants. And Milton Keynes has never really seen such a large kind of event like that with so many members of the public being involved, and we've got that 100 people, so they're coming from lots of different places like the Open University. We've got 2 universities also nearby which study dance, Bedford and Northampton, and also we've got the Oxford Dance Forum, which is not so far up the road. So it's about sort of connecting, reaching out and trying to bring people in and keep them there.
So it's also it's building a profile of dance as well as supporting people on the ground, and also
absolutely
about building audiences.
And different spaces for dance as well, and what the potential for dance is in the area. and there's an organisation called Arts Gateway MK, and they've just got a new space called Art Central, which is right by the train station. We've developed a new dance space in there because there is such a lack of that kind of rehearsal space in the area. So it's creating opportunity, it's seeing an opportunity, and then working with like-minded people to try and develop it.
Great, thank you.
No, it was about space.
So Lynn, a former member of Movement 12.
Yeah.
Tell us about Movement 12.
So Movement 12. So yeah, I'm an artist. Movement 12 doesn't exist anymore, so there's reasons for that, which maybe we're going to later. I'm also here because I'm part of a new collective called Buto Brighton, which hopefully there'll be a chance to talk about as well. But Movement 12. So Movement 12 was it was set up by several artists. I can say who those artists were. So it was originally myself, Miriam King, Becky Edmonds, Marisa Zanotti, Lindsay Butcher, Scott Smith, Ben Wright, CC Bloomstein, Virginia Farman, and Charlie Morrissey. So the background to us coming together as artists was years and years ago. Linda Jasper, who was director of South East Dance at the time, had a bit of money left over and gave us £1,000 because we were older artists. At the time, we were all over 40, and it seemed that there were fewer opportunities for older practicing. I don't know when middle-aged is, but you know, later in their careers perhaps, to have opportunities to come together. So we were given £1,000 to just do with what we wanted. There was originally 12 of us, so that's why we came across as using the word 12 when we became Movement 12. So with that money, space, we just wanted space to come together. So a few times we hired a dance space so we could just meet as very individual practicing artists. We'd all had very different ways of working, but we could actually be in a space together, maybe do a bit of moving, see what parallels we had. But we found what we most wanted to do was just maybe sit down on a crash mat in a studio and talk about ideas, like maybe we weren't having ideas anymore, or what inspired us. So it became more we wanting to just meet, share ideas and inspiration and motivations. So what we then did with some more of that money was, I think a few times we just put on a really good meal for ourselves. So we could get some lovely food in, sit and actually talk. Then that led to maybe inviting someone to talk. For instance, Steve Paxton came to a meal, and that became an idea for a salon evening of inviting an older artist, practicing artist, to come and share a meal with us and talk. So that's what it became about, creating an opportunity for artists to come together. I can't remember what else we did with that money, but it was mainly hiring space and opportunities to come. I think maybe we went for a day trip somewhere. So then that led to us putting in an Arts Council bid to actually further that mode of working. So we then came together and put on a series of things of what we felt we needed and what whatever the dance community is needed, and that seemed to be professional training. So we set up Saturday morning training sessions. So from the group of us, it would be whoever we felt was inspiring for us as individuals. So we'd get them to come from outside of Brighton to the dance studio at Brighton University and have a Saturday morning class. So it might be a yoga teacher or qigong teacher, or Lisa Nelson came, and if she was in London, she came to do some things. So that was something for the wider dance community to come to, that we actually wanted for ourselves as well. We also had salon evenings, so the Nightingale Theatre gave us space to put on a meal, have a guest artist come to talk, and other people could come to that. Discussions, master classes, For instance, I got Claude Coldy over from Italy to come and teach. He'd never taught in the south of England, in Brighton before. So it gave us funds, time, space, facility to invite international artists to come to Brighton. So that was all kind of, you know, here, there, and a little bit patchy sometimes. We found a lot of the Saturday morning classes weren't always well attended. So what we then found we wanted to do was, we had regular meetings. That's really important, that we met regularly to kind of have steering group meetings. We decided, it just came up in a discussion that idea of letting yourself be selfish, rather than, oh, if we put in funding, that means we've got to have this catchment of other people. We felt, what did we each want to do as an individual artist? So we applied for further funding so each of us could curate a 4-week to 6-week activity that included everything we wanted to do. So that included salon evenings, it included some classes, it included master classes, discussions, talks. So that was movement 12. So the main aim of it, I wrote it down, was to facilitate an environment in which the focus is on process, on exploration and discovery, rather than on product, giving professional dance artists some breathing space in which to train, try things out and explore new territory. So it's very much about wanting to be inspired, and by inviting who we wanted or thought would be inspiring, that would then have a knock-on effect for other new dance artists to come to. And a little bit about Buto Brighton is we're just beginning to establish it. 2 people here, Yale Caravan, Carolina Diaz, and there's Yumino Seki in Hastings. So we all have a background or interest in Buto dance. So we're at the beginnings of running classes, hopefully getting some international artists to come over to work with us and inspire us. We're all over 40 as well, which seems quite significant.
I think one of the last things I saw you on, which was really lovely, because everybody was doing a piece that was just something they just sort of played with. It wasn't, it had to be a piece that was going to go on stage somewhere or go on tour. And saw some really lovely pieces, people just, you know, really playful, really experimenting. That was great. It was really well attended. It's that chance to see people being themselves without that pressure of where it's got to go.
And there was a real kind of excitement about that. We had access to the Pavilion Theatre, so people would present a piece of maybe a work in progress or an idea in a promenade way, and we had really, really high attendance. And the cost was very, very minimal, and sometimes free for people to come to, because we had that little bit of funding to help support us. So it's like we really tried to be as accessible to everyone, as well as really satisfying what we wanted to do.
And in some ways, the organisation had a very much different setup to everybody else, because it was by being offered the money to satisfy your individual needs as artists that started, rather than a lack of
it's very much artist-led as well. And there was some money to pay for an administrator as well, half a day a week, or sometimes 1 day a week, that could administrate all the inquiries and whatnot.
So I guess now's probably quite a good time to ask why it stopped.
We reached the end of a 3-year period. We'd all done our we've got the old programme for it. Our there it was at the beginning of it. Yeah, it was our 1.5-year programme about curation that we did. And then we had to obviously, I think it must be online somewhere, we had to then complete very long feedback on that. And I think what happened was that there was a vote between all of us on whether or not to continue or not to continue, and the main consensus was we'd run our course on that, mainly because just things like we were offering a lot of other classes to other participants, and it seemed like there was a big buzz and a lot of interest. But then when we were running classes, not that many participants were coming, because there were 9 of us. We'd maybe run a master class, and then 6 weeks later there'd be another master class. And I think people have only got so much in a budget that they can spend on going to things. So it came that not so many people were coming to our events.
Yeah.
And then we kind of thought, well, maybe there wasn't a need. I think when we started, there weren't ongoing Saturday morning classes. There wasn't so much professional opportunities for artists, but now South East Dance took over a lot of that. In there are master classes, program for professional development. So it seemed to be that we'd kind of started something or initiated.
Do you think it's also because everybody involved got involved in setting up much larger projects? It feels to me that in some ways people are taking on maybe meeting. They haven't necessarily got time because they're bigger projects themselves.
That was just an aspect of it, often. But then kind of not at the same time, because when Movement 12 started, it was because a lot of us were working outside of Brighton. We were working in London or elsewhere, or we wanted to do something at home. We were all Brighton based or Lewis, something in our hometown, not always working or going away to do something. So we wanted to not only live here but be creative as well. But I think it wasn't that it lost momentum. It felt like it and also through doing what we were doing, it was a huge commitment as well. Just in we had an administrator, just administrative project. I invited Ursula Strickler from Switzerland because I really, really wanted to have her here and work with her 12, but all the time she was here, I was making sure she was okay and all the participants were okay and that she had somewhere to stay, and I didn't get so much seeing her here. So I think that was the same for the other artists, that it was not only a lot of responsibility, but it was like, I think when we were thinking, well, do we want to apply for another lot of funding to get it, the undertaking that would be to fulfill it. The majority vote was no, that it's run its course. And something I think we learned was too thinly either, maybe to just do one project or one master occasionally, rather than what was happening was like, every 6 weeks or every 2 weeks there'd be, have some extraordinary international. So that was a thing we learned, was not to spread yourself too thin, but maybe to do the occasional thing. Not that we weren't doing things well, but to just working on a lot and covering a lot of ground, and felt we really didn't have the momentum or energy to keep, and plus other work commitments as well.
Oxford Dance Program been going a long time.
My roles, again, some of the other people have already spoken, because Oxford Dance is a collective of dance artists, and we've got at some points up to 200 people on the mailing list, but they are people who have been at Oxford at some point, vaguely are interested, all kinds of reasons for them to be on that mailing list. So it's a very organically growing and shrinking kind of forum as people access it. And we have a professional development program called Homebed, and supported by Oxford City Council, and we're very lucky because we have supporters as well, and the arts at the Old bystander. So my time is funded through that programme. So whereas Mim's just been described to self-manage in a way, for Oxford Dance Forum, they have a bit of a luxury in that I do all that stuff for them, so they can be artists and being creative, and so that some of that workload is into me for booking the space and looking after the artists that come in. So Oxford Dance Forum has been going quite a long time, and there's a really community in Oxford of all kinds of artists and practitioners, and the forum is very flexible in that there's people in it who work in flamenco, there's people that work in hip hop and street dance, practitioners, contemporary dance artists, of all interested people. There's all sorts, and there's space for that within the forum, and it's mutually supportive environment, and anybody on that list can come to an Oxford Dance Forum meeting, and we normally have around maybe 20 people on average come meeting. So not everyone can always make the meeting. That always seems to be quite a good number. There's always a chance for everyone to share within those meetings what they're doing, little ideas that spark and have those meetings, as well as we quite often invite somebody in to talk about something, like the Oxford Film and Video people kind of came in and did a talk, and out of that people have started making connections within that. So it's quite open and connecting across, because Oxford's the city in a way, and it does really draw from the outside. There's a lot of good bus networks, which always helps. And so yeah, it's a good central point. So you can access the forum by just being on. They can come to meetings. We've got danceforum.com, which you can get updates of what's going on. For myself as a manager producer, so they can get their funding bids looked at before they submit and adds up and all that kind of stuff. They can get advice on ideas that's coming up. There's quite a range of things against that flexible approach that I think that we try to have at the forum, that it's not about supporting a particular way. The money that we have from Arts Council does very much focus on professional development, but that really feeds into everything else that the artists in the area are doing in terms of making their work, growing as artists, making a living, and all those kind of things. And within the homebed programme, we have strands where you can apply to have supported studio space. So some people are getting 70 hours of studio space. Some people are some people have been able to, because there's a strand that's also very much about business skills, which is something that doesn't get offered always everywhere. So they can apply to get mentoring time with a producer or even a life coach, if that's where they need to go with what they're investigating, or develop their website so that they can attract promoters, look more professional by having those kind of professional standard resources as artists and companies. There's a strand that's a kind of more widespread appeal workshops and intensives and salon evenings. We borrowed that lovely idea from Movement 12. So there's kind of something for everyone. The people that want to come to class, there is not often, but we do have classes at times. Intensives, like we've had Yael Caravan come and teach for us. We've had Theo Clinkard. So we've kind of been interested in working with people across the region. I'm quite often emailing Rosie and saying, hey, we've got this coming up, special deal if any of your members would like to come, because at the moment Homebed is really about Oxford reaching out and developing itself beyond being just a little lovely bubble, but really getting out. And over the last year you can kind of see, as the programme's developed, that we've had artists taking their work to Donald Terrace Festival at Go Live in London, and there's been connections with Woking, and Movement 12 came over and put on a very delicious salon evening as your project was kind of ending, ours was starting, and so it was a really nice chance. That was really inspiring for a lot of the members. I think one of the things Oxford does well is kind of general support to one another. There's quite a lot of generous sharing that goes on. We're quite lucky because we have artists at quite a lot of different stages in their careers as well, so that there's there's a sharing of experience across generations, across training places. You know, you don't get that kind of homogenous state that you can sometimes get if everyone's just the same. There's and there's moments of challenge at times in meetings because people do genuinely disagree, but there's safety in the meetings that people can, and we can all still, you know, can progress and move forward. So yeah, and that all feeds into the wider kind of ecology of dance in Oxford. So we have the Moving with the Times platform. So ahead of that we have scratch nights and work in progress nights so that people can progress towards those platforms and show the best work that they can at those. So that's Oxford Dance Forum.
So it's interesting that you brought up how Movement 12 were involved and Woking Dance Festival and Surrey Dance Collective. Has there been any other sort of holistic links between you guys? Any other things that happen or getting out of your area with your collective?
We've not kind of got out of the area as a collective, but definitely the collective has helped people go elsewhere. I mean, I think the biggest link is probably with Oxford Dance Forum, but I think the collective has certainly brought a lot more funding to the area to make professional work, and that has then been turned and gone to lots more places. So.
And obviously working here as well, yeah. So yeah, Movement 12 in a different way. So. Yeah. Okay. So in terms of, we've heard about having a separate producer. Luckily, Oxford have a producer who can answer questions.
Technically manager.
Well, yeah.
Producer might be where it goes in the future.
Yeah, but they within your role, you have that expertise, so you're able to offer and be available for lots of questions and advice. Whereas, in terms of managing Surrey Dance Collective, it must be quite hard. Like Movement 12, that's artist-led without that separate role. How do you find that?
A lot of the work is done by me, which but I'm actually funded through Surrey County Council to do that work. And it's a difficult balance because the committee, we all have roles, but I think because my work is funded, a lot of that comes down to me. So my funded role has come to an end in April, so we've got to work out how that continues to happen. We have a lot of support from our dance development officer, Sarah Martin, so we're really lucky with that as well.
So you have a dance person at the local council, as does Oxford, which is fantastic. And there's very few of them left in the country, so long may it last. But I guess also, if they know somebody's being put into that role, then there's less pressure for other members to really have to invest maybe in some of that support.
Yeah, it can happen. It really ebbs and flows. Sometimes I can rally the troops and they'll be really great, and then it'll kind of tail off.
And Helen, it sounds like you're happy to run everything and galvanise everything together.
We're starting to build, and we're starting to build, people in the area that are taking over certain things. We've got a youth dance company being set up. So back in the day, we said Bucks Dance, of course, which was fantastic, and used to run lots of different projects through them and collaborative events and get professional dance companies to come in and do work. But that folded, 10, 12 years ago, perhaps.
Yeah. It's a regional dance agency. South East Dance is one of the national dance development organisations, but there used to be many more smaller dance agencies. As funding has shrunk over time, it's been harder to sustain all of this infrastructure when there's limited money, it needs to go to artists as well. When decisions have been made, some of these organisations have lost out over time. So,
and I think one of the main things for the area where I come from is it's sort of developed a culture of, well, this is what I do in our own pockets, and it's just trying to create that culture of working together and realising bigger things by doing that, and actually more opportunity and a more sustainable prospects really by doing just that, working together, more exciting projects and long-term projects.
So Kylie, you talked about the application and Oxford Dance Forum being able to unlock support from 2 theatres, which is fantastic. And I remember at the beginning with the Oxford Fire Station, being an organisation to negotiate meant that you actually, and with Arts Council funding, meant you were actually able to buy quite a good presence within the building, which was a new space with a fantastic dance studio. But if it hadn't been for buying out that time, it would have been used for children's ballet throughout the day and those sort of activities. So fantastic resource to be able to sort of be kept to a certain extent, but still would struggle with booking and creating space, I would imagine, as well, because it's got commercial.
Yeah, it's a commercial venue. It doesn't have public subsidy, so it has to pay its way, you know, to exist. But the staff and the director there have been really, I think, committed to the idea of the forum, and that's why our programme is called Home Bed, because we were bedding in, and it was being our home as they were opening their doors as a new venue, and they kind of really wanted to have, you know, the benefit they get from that is to have a feeling of there's a community based within the building, you know, and whenever you go past, there's some dancers in the cafe having a meeting, you know. I think we're like keeping them existing on coffees alone, you know. I think next time we won't bother to ask them for space, we'll just ask them for coffees. But yeah, having that support, because the subsidised rate, I mean, the commercial rate is impossible for an independent artist, and even subsidised companies struggle to pay that, you know, those space rates. I mean, I'm sure, like all of us, probably have space is the big issue. So to have some time carved out with our name on it is very handy.
So to all of you, really, is there stuff you think that's been unlocked, or connections or resources that have been unlocked that you wouldn't necessarily be able to unlock if you've been an individual approaching, but as a collective or as a larger group you've managed to?
Access to space, because part of we had support in kind from Nightingale Theatre, which doesn't exist anymore. The basement gave us space as well, and the dome. So that was something we could access as a group rather than as individuals.
I guess that relationship made it easier to then set up platforms. Showcasing events, because you had that history working in the building.
Yeah, we had that space.
What about you? Because you've got a new relationship with G-Live, which is a civic centre, really, isn't it? It's a sort of it's a big theatre, council.
It's commercial theatre now. It was the old civic town hall. So that relationship with G-Live has definitely been built through the collective, but also through Surrey Arts and Sarah, and kind of scratching before bigger companies. I don't think we'd be able to unlock for ourselves. I think one of the most successful things of our programme so far has been the commissions, and so that's asking an artist to come and make work on us and go through that process deeper. And I don't think as an individual you could ask them. It's just definitely been great. And the class as well. We also have access to space. So Surrey Arts has a gym at the back of a school in Old Woking, which is not the easiest thing to get to, but not a great floor. But it is space, and we have that. We do have that every Thursday. It's open to run class if people want to just to rehearse afterwards. And so we're starting to build that relationship with G-Live in terms of space across the summer and in their quieter times.
So, quite a few of you talked about Arts Council projects, and I'm encouraging that. I'm very encouraging of that, because the funding has changed so much now that we don't have money, but we can identify a need like Milton Keynes and go, have some cash, let's get this up and running, which in the past would have been, you know, a way we would have done it, how we developed the project and set it up. But in the current system, we don't have access to that money, but we can support and help with developing applications. So it is like working with Oxford to meet with the fire station and talk to the partners and help you guys to build your application, and then you go away and work out as a collective what the needs of the artists were, and with you obviously talking about what you felt as a group you were missing from your development and what would have really helped, and that opportunity to find those artists and spend time rather than just doing a class where you're doing technique, I know was particularly useful. And I think one of the things for me is that everybody sitting here can apply to Arts Council as an individual and apply for CPD and apply for their own research or to go and work with a particular artist. But this is additional, so together you can unlock resources as a group, but then you can also apply for individual projects. And for me, that seems to be one of the things that's come out quite strongly as the success of these projects is that from Oxford, I would say you pretty much got 100% success rate of artists applying
for grants for the arts.
For grants for the arts.
Yeah.
Because they've had that development time, they've had the support through some of the schemes, they've got match funding sometimes because they've used some of the match funding from that time to buy a studio, and that together then builds up enough that they can come in and with the expertise and advice get patients stronger. And you've had quite a few successes from your project, haven't you? Things. What have you had?
Yeah, quite a few of our members have now got GFAs from the Arts Council, but I think we're almost a victim of our own success because numbers have declined in the last few months, and that's because people have got work. So actually, the artists that we've brought in, people have then gone on to work with,
which is fantastic.
Which is great, but it means it's hard for us to run our programme. So people have gone on to work with Gary and Heidi and things like that. So.
Yeah, because I remember when we were talking, one of the issues was about, when you turn up at an audition, how do you make yourself stand out? And you can't, especially when you're out of London, you can't afford to go to class everywhere around the country to chase an artist you might want to work with. You might audition in 6 months' time, and actually, this was one way around it, was to bring them in and they get to know you and your space. Yeah, that's great. So, and I guess maybe you've had nearly everybody from Movement 12's working on large projects or longer projects, or not even in the country.
Yeah.
And I think people's practice have changed over time as well now, so they might not come in for funding under dance, although that might be where it's potentially started. And yourself, you've been busy. You've got some money for the dance element of the festival.
Yeah, we've been lucky enough to get the money, so that's happening in June. So we've got workshops, and we've got Theo actually coming down, and we're calling in the headline act. I'm sort of pretending we're doing a music festival. Yeah, we've been really lucky in some professional development as well as community development with that funding. Just trying to, kind of spy artists within that bid to kind of invest in them in the area as well.
Yeah. Might be something you might want to take forward, or
I think it's it all interests me. I think it's just you start off as an individual and doing your thing, and then slowly but surely you start to bring in other people to that, and that and I feel like in Milton Keynes it's a natural build that's happening, which is quite nice. It doesn't feel like it's forced. It feels like there is a real enthusiasm actually in the support network for it, which through various other organisations like the Gallery, the Fringe MK, the IF Festival, there's a trust that's sort of built up. I think that's part of it when you're working together. People got to trust you to kind of want to work with you, and that's taken a while to build up. It's always harder to work where you live.
Yeah.
I think it's probably stronger coming from grassroots and building slowly than plonking on top, isn't it?
Yeah.
That it will sustain. Because it's genuine, isn't it? It's coming from what's there.
Definitely. And as we're investing and building, more artists are open to collaboration and more interesting things are happening.
It doesn't grow too quickly either.
No. Yeah.
Do you find, we talked about how you have systems of committees and joint decision making. We talked a little bit about how you hammer out choices and that supportive environment. Do you find it you can accommodate everybody's needs if they're all so different and work in different areas of practice, or is there enough common elements?
I think in Surrey we've managed to do that because we've been able to have quite a comprehensive programme, so we have been able to have artists from lots of different fields or genres. I think it's we've done lots of doodle polls. I'm just trying to think how we've always done it. So we have the committee meetings, but we also have a lot of doodle polls. And I guess actually the difficult thing for us has been that the funding has gone on for such a long time, and actually what we originally asked for isn't what people want necessarily
now
anymore.
Yeah.
So we've got to the stage where people don't really want this specific thing anymore. We're trying to think of how we can sort of work that last bit out.
I think that's the thing though, as you get more access to opportunities and stuff like that, then your interests change, and your, the direction of your own practice might change. I mean, we talked a lot about making work and moving, and stuff around, some stuff around teaching. Are you finding there's people in your networks that are just teachers, or they're always teaching, and everybody's multifaceted?
I think everyone in our network is probably multifaceted, but we've definitely got some we've got some full-time school teachers, and then it becomes difficult to find the time, like which day, which time is going to be best for everyone. So you've got to, do you keep to every Thursday, which is what we have done, or do you try and change it and then confuse everyone? So that's a bit of a battle.
Yeah, with Movement 12, we would have regular, maybe every 6 weeks, every 2 months, steering group meetings, usually on a Sunday. We'd try and see how many people we could get there. Out of the 9 of us, often we'd have 7. So that seems so important that you had communication, because we're all very different artists. Some working site-specific, some with contact dance, some with video dance, or expressionistic dance. So regular meetings, and to really make sure everyone's voice is heard and respected. You might not always agree or understand particular ideas, but to make sure everyone's voice is heard, and then arrive at some kind of consensus at the end. And we'd be quite, not rigid, but we'd think, right, what do we need to have decided at the end of this 2 hours? So maybe we'd have a meeting at 3, tea and cake. And then by 5 o'clock we would have known, we need, some of us would have to go off and do other things, but we would have arrived at whatever it was on our agenda by that time. And for everyone to be heard in that.
I think I would say, to be honest, for us, that we can't keep everyone happy. No way. There's so many people with such a range of interests that it's just not possible. And I think what's important for the forum at the moment and for Homebed is that there are different strands. So anybody can have an hour or 2 of my advice and support and guidance. Anyone can have that, but they might not want to come to such and such workshop because it's not relevant to their particular work. But the majority is relevant to it. I don't think it's a great use of public money to put dance form workshop that 2 to 3 members of the forum have a passionate interest in, whereas might come. We already have enough trouble getting people to come to stuff that everyone says they want, let alone 3 people say they want. So we have to be really tough looking at how the money is spent, because it is a responsibility when you have money to do it as wise as you can, because not everyone else has that. So
it's quite interesting, because maybe you talked about that as well, about the actual, because of people's availability and schedule, to actually book things like master classes and classes and regular activity, getting people available who get there.
It is quite. It's interesting to hear that. It's like you really, really think you're going to get all these participants, all this interest, and then a week beforehand you kind of you do more admin, and you kind of think, do people like the idea of something, but don't really want to do it, or is it so specific that it's, I don't know. It's funny. I mean, my attitude is, even if I might not know if I like it or not, if it's an opportunity, I'd like to try it. Discover something I didn't know about. So it seems to be a big thing of getting participants to come along. Otherwise, you kind of, who is it
Controversial, but I do think that I don't know if it's coming from just the general feeling of fear in the economy and all of these things, but a lot of artists have said to me, I just don't have the money to come, and I sympathise, but I struggle with that because I'm an independent manager, producer. I don't have a guaranteed income. I have to invest in my professional development, about stuff, I don't want to go to training about contract negotiation, but I have to, and I have to pay it. I'd much rather go to Helen's workshop on Saturday and, things like that. So I try to encourage it as an investment, because I don't think you can create work without connecting with other artists, without looking at other people's ways of working, but how, I think it's a difficult conversation when you are in a manager producer role, whereas perhaps if you're living it as a demo maker, I don't know. I think it's a tricky one. I think there's it's a knotty issue because money is hard and people have got to make livings and all of that. But at the same time, if you want to generally work as an artist, I don't think you can do it in an isolation. Engaging and doing stuff. I think most stuff that I do in the region is very well priced for the that you get as well.
I feel like actually people have work at the moment. Fear of not having work, but actually I feel like which is why they're not coming.
Yeah.
And actually when we started, people didn't train and get more skills. So it feels like an issue for us as well, essentially.
That's quite an interesting position to be in, though. And I think that it just shows that development over the period. So you're for a year and a half now.
Yeah.
And for
it's just 2 years.
So it's had a sort of beginning and middle and an end in sight as well, with the programme set out within that. So I guess that gives some sort of for people as well, knowing what they can engage in, what they can decide for it.
Yeah. I think the other thing is people are very protective over their free time.
Yeah.
So actually, on a Sunday, it's a bit of a competition.
Well, one of the things coming up on the tweets is really just this thing around space, that even with support or a little bit, it's not enough to get the work made. Well, it's still not enough, which I'm sure is what we hear from everyone. So I guess really, has anyone got any questions while we're here? Is there anything? I guess let's keep it Brighton. So without Movement 12 really running anymore, I know there's a new network setting up, isn't there? Okay. And how you get together? How's that work? Is it just on Facebook and you get together?
Yeah, we set up the meetings so we can have a physical place to meet, so to kind of get off the internet.
Yes.
So everything used to happen on the internet,
Yeah.
so we're going to speak to anyone. And we meet in the park, very relaxed. And I take notes and then send them out so no one's taking notes. And yeah, a place to meet and kind of share what we're doing and opportunities and what we've seen and try and make something happen that we want to happen, whoever comes to the meetings. And we started them in June last year, July last year, and had one kind of every 5 or 6 weeks. And it kind of coincided with Tamar setting up some classes, which we now have every Wednesday, and also there's another morning class as well. And Connie has been trying to set up workshops, which we've had exactly the same kind of experience that you have. Loads of people saying, meetings, we want to come in. This is what we want. We need more professional development. We want, long workshops, we want this, and we set them up, and then tumbleweed.
Right, actually.
Yeah, the first one
was
was
that with
going
yeah,
around
just
it.
couldn't make it down due to transport issues, but the second one
Oh,
was
I know.
which is such a shame. But the second one was yeah, hardly anyone signed
Yeah.
up. So
Yeah. And I think we're a bit of a war now. It's like, should we carry on with that? You know, people are still saying they want those things, but then maybe they don't. I don't know. We don't know
It's an
what
interesting one because
what
we've
is.
heard this a lot. I mean, I've been working in the region since, oh God knows, when Linda Jasper was around. So, but you know, it was always we need a daily, you needed class in writing, we needed class in writing, but then there's been various different attempts to get that off the ground. And actually, most people work in London, so they might not be around to do class in the morning. But you know, things will change when there's a building and. You know, and you've got a hub and there's guaranteed space. That will make things very, very different. That whole having a hub, physical hub, makes a huge difference. Like even just using the cafe at Oxford Fire Station, and you know, it's those sort of things make a difference. But yeah, it's really hard to get that balance between what people say they need, they feel they need, but what they can actually spare time, resources, money to do.
That kind of leads me on to a question for the panel about how do you market what you do? In which ways do you reach out to audiences to get them to come to your workshops or to see your events, etc.?
We have email mailing lists. We physical things like this booklet that you could actually put in places or give to people after an event worked really well. And then hosting events like the platform events that people could actually come to were very popular. We had more people come to like an event at the Pavilion Theatre or Nightingale to actually have it like a free event for people to come to of an evening. So it's like, you know, a night out, and then to make an announcement of what we were doing, and to actually, you know, then get an email list from people there. And then maybe physically give pamphlet.
So people to those events, were they, with that particular audience, kind of, you know, word of mouth essentially, or were there ways that you...
Word of mouth, email lists, because we had several venues who were supporting us, like the Nightingale, it would go on the Nightingale's email list, or the Basement, it would go into their seasonal programme. So that was a really good way of getting other audiences as well who weren't necessarily dance audiences.
I'm guessing you also, as individuals who've been working for quite a period of time, you all have your own mailing list as well.
Yes, of course, our own mailing list as well.
And you've talked about how you've grown from being quite a much smaller route to having a much, and that's been quite quick compared to Oxford Dance Forum's membership growth.
You've got a lot more. They've got a lot more on the mailing list than us, but Facebook. The main thing that we have actually is a Google group, which means that I don't have to, like, if people want to send out an email saying come to this, I don't have to do it. So it's an email address that you can email that then sends an email to the group, and that's really useful. So that's basically the members, our mailing list. Yeah, I mean, the usual channels, social media, we put on the South East Dance events and notices page. We advertise in London as well. Sometimes we get, occasionally we get people coming down from London, because to Woking it's only 30 minutes, not too bad. But
you need a multi-pronged approach. I think people don't tend to book things just from seeing something once. I think they need to see this, and they need to get an email with a whole list of everything that's going on. They need to get an email just about that event, and they need to see a tweet about it, and they need Facebook as well, and they need someone to talk about it when they see them at a show, and it's just everyone's got so many other things that are possible to go out to do that evening, weekend, that how they do it.
It's also exit flying dance performances. When you go to dance performance, most people know it's a bit like dance, or are a teacher that might have access to 30 students or something like that. So I think sometimes don't underestimate the audience. Certain things. What's really interesting is Oxford, a university dance course in Oxford, so it's not like graduates staying there. It's a really unusual environment because there's all these in Oxford, but they did come out of college, university there. And with Surrey, you've got Surrey University, but you've also got a lot of people now that go home. They have to go home to live at home to make it work financially. There's also a bit of a scene around Chichester and Eastleigh. There's quite a good scene there of people staying, and that's been again of artists working together, and that's been through the theatre and the university links. So as they leave, they also link in all those different organisations there. I think it's about, to enable people to stay in that area, it's about those jobs as well. It's about the other bits of portfolio work that enable you to not have to go to London 24/7 to work. So yeah, it's again, Brighton's an interesting place because there's so many artists. It's got such a strong artist scene here. But it doesn't mean to say it's been easy in any way or form. And people have to have so many different jobs and different bits to do to make the ends meet. But they won't necessarily have the right availability, or they might be in a club till 3 and they won't be able to get up for a class at 10 AM. So I think, sometimes you're a victim of being successful by paying your rent, even if it's not in dance. So trying to fit those things in is quite difficult. Yeah. Is there anyone here from anywhere other than Brighton? You are in Chichester. Hooray! How you feel, whether it feels like it's just a university, or do you have a sense of the links further afield with that?
I do personally, because I went to the university in Chichester, but I've lived in Chichester all my life as well.
Okay, great.
So I have the kind of student knowledge and the resident knowledge. But I find with Chichester, I've always travelled easily all to Brighton to access work. And it's more than the festival theatre that is putting on the kind of interesting work, particularly interesting dance work. But then you've got courses there. That's a real highlight. Is your professional standard work being made by your suppose your peers in a way. So you get that and at the point there's a real link with map dance and the point and things like that. So you've got that mix that way, but then we're also encouraged to kind of go further afield to look at things. I feel sometimes there is a lack of in-city support, but there's definitely in-house city. So if you're not linked to the university, you do have to go out. Get on the train, come along, things like this.
Like, I don't think we've got anyone on Twitter from there, but people in Kent getting together to try and make things happen there, which is really interesting. There was actually a Kent Dance Network many years ago that ran for a long period, years and years actually. But again, that came to an end. But then they're doing some of that sort of development work as a company in that area. So it's quite an interest in people building up. And I know, speaking to somebody from today, she was saying that until they started, people were actually on the ground because everyone's commuting to work. So as she thought it was 3 or 4, it's now building and building and building. So I think it is that thing that it's a drip feed, and the more you make people aware of it, get people together, and it's really, it seems to me getting enough of you to decide what you need, and if that's what everybody in the wider sector needs as well, you want it and you can commit to it, and that's you that can do that class on that Saturday morning, then that's enough to start. Don't kill yourself trying to reach everyone, I would say. How do you feel about what do you feel about starting? On the spot.
I think you can think of it as like a bit like crowdfunding sometimes, crowdfunding yourself, because that's one of the ideas we were looking looking at in Oxford, because we can't justify running workshops people come to. But so how can we continue to make workshops happen? Because it would be bad if there are none at all. So if everybody puts in what we all agree is a reasonable amount for a quality workshop, it's almost like the church wants enough to pay that person to come, and if we can get a decent, space within that and stuff, and everyone can agree who they want to come, then we can run. Not everyone likes that. We're trying to come up with some really practical solutions to a really difficult problem. And then I think that also that can give some that people are taking a responsibility to invest in there, and that can leave some other support block it, as you said earlier.
I think partly championing the smallest as well, actually. Even if they're attending a workshop, they can get a lot out of that, and that can really help them develop, which can then help them employ other people if they're choreographing and making work.
There was certainly something around the legacy of people in the workshop. It's about the fact that several of your peers have put in applications to ask your group to dance in their application, which is what I see quite a lot of people might have their own application that they're dancing in another, and that's a great way of pooling your own portfolio of stuff. That means that you're probably dancing rather than just doing your own projects. But I think that longer term legacy is quite interesting. Because it is, don't worry about it being small numbers to start with. So. Any questions to these guys?
I have a question. Both Surrey Dance Collective and Oxford Dance Forum are kind of round, let's say, and I'm curious to know, as you are thinking back, what would you like to change? Or if you look back, what would you say, oh, perhaps we should have done this differently, or could have done this differently?
I think it's hard to know what you would have done differently, because I think you really respond to what's happening in that moment. I think for in terms of our next stage, we're looking at doing something very different. So we're looking at applying together as a group that's not just Surrey Dance Collective, but other partnerships dance partnerships within Surrey, to do a one-day festival. So actually what came out of this was we've explored articulating our voice, now we want to demonstrate that. So kind of one-day festival that will give us an opportunity to do that. And I think from then my hunch is that we'll go back to more CPD. I expect, but it's probably a bit of a break, because I think there will just be this ebb and flow of needing CPD and then really just needing to create, and then we needing some more CPD again.
And do you feel the collective structure that you have allows you to respond to that flexibly enough?
Yeah, I think you can always do with more sort of really active members. The activity levels of our members will range really variedly. Like so I've stayed on as chair for an extra year. We changed our constitution so I could facilitate that. So we need some people to come up and take on some more responsibility. But and in terms of how many people on the committee, I think that will probably need to change in terms of constantly change depending on what people can commit to at that time. So I think
I think for us, because we have the structure where we have the chair, who is also that's Claire Thompson, who's the dance and theatre officer for Oxford City Council, and she's just such a champion of dance. She's just, I can't congratulate Claire highly enough of how much time and energy she puts into Oxford Dance Forum, which has been running for such a long time. It'll actually be the third Grants for the Arts project if we go for another round of that. And so she acts as the chair, and she's just such a driving force and galvanizer of people, and constantly finding little pockets of money here and there, and constantly emailing out opportunities, really just championing dancers and artists in that area. Her as the leader of the steering group, So then there's like 7 or 8 of members of, so it still has that artist-led voice coming through of what is needed, because they're as well, so they're constantly with dancers every week and hearing and living it and knowing what's needed. Plus then the larger meetings where everyone does a brainstorm and we all find out what the vast range of ideas that people want to do. Like the last one, we had people saying they wanted to do Buto and dancing with dogs, and there's like a range of interests within one meeting. So I think that there's a flex within the structure that can always respond to the needs. So I think we, again, a bit like you said, like we wouldn't do anything differently, but now it's time for a change. It's time for something new, something different. And I think what we've seen and what we've been really encouraged by Arts Council to do was to really help everyone take that next step, use the continuing professional development that the programme offered to raise people up, raise ambitions, raise aspirations, and we're really seeing that, and that the success rate of the grants for the arts bids that go in, and just this general positive vibe that's going on. I think that will take through to the next, but I think it's going to be more focused on a smaller number of artists, but who've got the greatest potential. How we judge that's going to be a whole other thing.
Yeah. So Oxford had commissioning levels of commissioning support. They set up a 3-tier scheme. You could do one level where you got a little bit of support.
Incubator, germinator, and cultivator was the other level. But so it was that kind of idea of growing people. I didn't remember those names before.
Yeah, and it involved things like the space, mentoring, business support, delivered in packages. So a small level for somebody really starting out to maybe buy a week in the studio. And then there was 3 different scales. So ideally, it sort of touched on the people but it was applications. So you got to select who'd written the best application or pitched best, but then you go training on how to pitch. Yeah,
before they did it.
Yeah. So,
because the idea again is not to try and catch people out or embarrass anybody or go, ha, you didn't do it. It's always to try and give everyone the best chance possible. So.
But what works with that and with yours as well is the platforming. So it's not just giving people a chance to make work and experiment. Yes, play with just play and experimentation and R&D. It shouldn't always end in a product. I really big fan of research and play, but where it has been effective is also where it's had the Moving Times platform, where I've seen an artist be involved in a smaller project, come in for Grants for the Arts for that, and maybe showcasing it at the Times platform, but then they might have then gone to get a couple of dates tour for their next application. So you can see that development process. I guess it's a matter of deciding what your needs are, where that's met, whether that's Flourish or through something else, or what platforms and what opportunities to perform are there, really. I know with G Live the opportunity to perform before a mainstream performance, which is something that South East Dance has done, and the Point Leasley in partnership with South East Dance has done, has been really, really successful, because it means that you're accessing somebody else's audience. See your work, but again, when it's right, you don't have to always work towards putting your work on, and that's something that can be funded by you applying to Grants for the Arts as opposed to a collective. One of the things about some of these applications is that all of the 3 applications that came in were all 1.5 or longer applications. So as you've said, what you said thought you wanted to do at the beginning has changed over the process, but there is a flex to change the programme to respond to needs. But I think it's quite good when it's a longer period. It means that you need to have support from other partners, which is why those conversations with the theatre or for something and pulling those people together is really important. But it does mean that you've got a longer period to get somewhere. You're not just got an application for 6 weeks of being gone and that's it. You've got an opportunity to go away, to do something, think about it, take time in your own practice and then come back, which is always really, really useful to practice, really. So, yeah. Well, on Twitter, we haven't had any real questions other than the ones around that being an issue.
I was just thinking about that actually, because one thing that I've sort of been trying to play with Milton Keynes, a lot of people think that their space isn't a dance space.
Yeah.
So that's always been, you know, you kind of walk in, and sometimes it isn't appropriate. However, we went to Interaction, which is a tiny art space with a very small arts room. The floor's great. So, you know, you clear the floor around, actually you've got quite a nice bouncy floor, and they've never done any dance in there. So sometimes it's just about, I found, just going to see those odd places and actually clear everything out. It's got a beautiful wooden floor on, you know, and you put on something there, and suddenly events start to happen. And that's been, you know, whereas before we've had the feedback of there's no spaces for dance in Milton Keynes, and you know, it's just trying to make those connections and build that up.
There's something called the Dance Strategy Group, which is key NPOs, and there's somebody on the Dance Strategy Group that represents every aspect of the dance sector, from somebody representing independent artists to teachers to venues in the region to, you know, South East Dance Agency, and that the aim of the network is that all of those different points of view are considered when planning is done on a larger scale. Obviously, we all have pre-funding, we resolve everything, but we don't. Some things like Big Dance comes out of that, and the face-to-face conference, which is the conference for anyone in the dance world to get together in the South East to meet and make contacts and hear discussions, which is really, really valuable. But one of the other things that is just going to be published soon is a space directory, which is anyone that's got any information, just add it to it, because that's, again, really useful. And yeah, one of the things that is really, I found when I was looking for space everywhere around the whole region, was that village halls, a lot of them were redone in 2000 as part of the Millennium Money, and a lot of them have got really amazing wooden sprung floors in now, and pretty much all of them are accessible as well. So it's quite interesting that they might have their WI meeting in the evening, but they might do 5 hour stint free with beautifully sprung floor in an accessible place. So I think the directory would be quite useful in helping with that needs, and then it's just about accessing the money to either buy the space or borrow the space or use it to match funds, you know, application. It will be through South East Dance website. You can get to the Dance Strategy Group. I don't know if it'll be on Dance South East Dance website or the Dance Space.
At the moment, there'll probably be a line on the website that says email me for it.
Okay.
Working out how to post it in its best way.
Yeah.
The hope is that one day it will be more like a forum that people can contribute to themselves.
I mean, these things will always change so quickly because you never know rates and prices and stuff. But it's always a good place to start. But you know, it's also the money to access the space and more time as well. So, yeah.
We started to do a little thing in Milton Keynes. There's a Chrysalis Theatre, which is an integrated community, a disability learning community and an arts community, and they offer, if you volunteer for them, they offer a little bit. So if you do an hour, they give you half an hour space, and that's worked quite well. And it's a beautiful, beautiful space. So you know, with that model, you kind of go to other places. Go, if I did this for you, give me like a few hours back. And then actually building your audience that way is quite good and quite interesting. And,
Actually, I have another question.
Yeah.
Because I'm just thinking, a lot of you have spoken about the relationships that you've built where you are. So really tapping into the theatres or the other organisations within the community. And I wondered if you wanted to speak at all to how you made those initial approaches, or how did you find the right people to connect with? Or not?
I would say, I mean, from my experience, it just takes a lot of time and a lot of meetings, and sometimes those contact people change. You build a relationship, and then that person changes, and you have to build that all over again. And it's just, I don't know, it's just being genuine and honest, and just trying to get that trust in those people to, you know, invest in your work and try things out, and then kind of almost proving that it, you know, it can work. Because I've had meetings where people are kind of, you know, you can see they don't really understand, or, I mean, we did a disused nightclub in Milton Keynes, and it was like, this is never going to work, it will work, it will work. And, you know, just constantly, it is that constant bit like marketing, or whatever, you know. It's that constant trying and giving ideas and being not necessarily a sort of yes person in any way, but just trying to offer options and ways around things. I don't know about that.
Sometimes a bit of politics, if you're just in the right place at the right time and you're on somebody's radar, that, like with the Arts at the Old Fire Station, that because of Claire being at the council, you know, we were able to get in on being part of their bid to exist as an art space, and obviously they needed us.
They needed
as much as we needed them. So
to be the arts organisation to be able to access money for some of their stuff as well. So yeah,
just taking the opportunity to ask if you're in a particular situation, or you go and see a show somewhere, or you go to anything in a hall or something, just to ask. It's kind of gradual, and if there's several of you, then you've all got this different. It's like fishing, you know. Not that I go fishing, but it's like putting out loads and loads of lines, and then eventually you catch something or two. Ask, even if it seems unlikely.
I mean, I would say from my experience before Arts Council, don't always assume you have to go into the direction of theatre to start a conversation. Education and learning departments are quite often a really good way in to start a conversation about your work and your practice. And, you know, if you do go to a show, talk to the person behind the bar, because you might find that the theatre director is actually in the show, watching the show, and sometimes it's easy to do it if there's two of you, because then you can edge up together. If one of you can't think of anything to say, the other one. But things like face-to-face, there'll be loads of people, loads of theatre directors and different people in the sector there, at different events like
What Next?
Yeah, What Next, and even there's a platform within Bright Festival called Caravan for English theatre, but it's actually bringing over international promoters from all around the world to that. So actually, if you're at one of those performances, it's highly likely that the international promoters from all around will be in that audience, because they'll be there to see those certain events. So it's really about piggybacking to make contacts, networking. I mean, we do a whole session on networking and gate crashing and blagging your way through the dance world in this country and abroad. But yeah, I'd say that don't be afraid to have a conversation, because so many things start with conversation. So many things. And it might be they'll just have a chat with you and go, oh yeah, that's fine. But then maybe a month later when you call them up and say, actually, we're doing this project, just wanted to let you know. And the next one is, we're doing this project, but now in the States, can't do it to us, you know. So it's about all of that and thinking about how you might be able to give something back to their programme, especially around sort of education work and stuff like that. Sometimes it is just, you know, one workshop for free might be enough to unlock a really good relationship that you can then build on for the next couple of years. And people change as well. People change in jobs, so you might not have much luck with one theatre, and then it'll suddenly pick up and flourish. Or that's your experience.
That is a big thing, though. You think you've got a relationship with one place, and then that person leaves, and you're almost back to scratch again, or the remit of that venue then changes. So it's never safe. It's never safe. You're always like on a precipice.
On the other side, I would also say, though, always find out where that person goes.
That's true. Yeah, that has happened too.
Really small. So let's be honest, half of them, Movement 12, some of them have been on the board of South East Dance. Kyla's on the board of an NPO, a dance company in the region. You're involved in lots of different things. So everybody has multiple hats. So you're talking to somebody thinking they're just a peer, but they might be linked into another organisation. And it's things like that. So, like I said, people move on, but they might move on and open up some Yorkshire to you as a touring region, because they've moved to the dance agency there or something. So you really, once you get going, it's easy to keep it up, as long as you keep it up. And know how to pitch and talk about your work, which we talked about tonight.
It's chance things as well, isn't it? Suddenly you could be having a conversation, and then, you know, just naturally talking about your work and they're talking about theirs, and then you'll get a phone call or whatever, and it's just starting those conversations, isn't it?
I think piggyback off the other art forms as well. I think Surrey's been quite successful with. Actually, the first thing I made when I got out of university was because I collaborated with other artists that had a space and said, can I do something here too? So yeah, I think look wider than dance as well, because we all know we can perform in galleries and other spaces as well. Yeah.
I think there's also a bit of something about karma and goodwill as well. Like I think, you know, if you're trying to get things to happen for yourself, everyone else is trying to do the same. So it's liking other people's status, it's retweeting those tweets, because we all need that. We all need to feel like people are noticing what we're doing and interested and spreading the word. If we just focus on our own thing, it's got to go wider, and it's got to, we've all got to pitch in, because I think that can only help. I don't think it helps to be protective and territorial. I don't think that helps. It might feel like, oh God, don't tell anyone else about our brilliant space over here. I think you've got to share it. I think that.
Yeah, keep your communication options open and be respectful as well.
Motto for life.
Yes.
It's much more fun anyway, like that, isn't it? By working with other people and realising new collaborations.
The other thing is that one of the things I've been thinking quite recently is that most dancers, looking back, get most of their work from their peers, and you'll all employ and work with each other on projects. And if you think about Movement 12, you've all dipped in and out. There's been a lot of sort of people working for each other and joining projects, and you're effectively creating your own community now that will be your dance community for your whole career, really. There might be that Brighton, but you'll still be in the dance. It's not big enough. You will be linked in some way. So you'll get your work, you'll get your opportunities, you'll hear about opportunities, and you'll gradually move around to different roles, but you'll still have that connection. So even if you just sit in the pub and meet every 6 weeks and have a pint and talk about the dance world and how hard it is, you're still building your network, and you're still building those opportunities for yourself. So don't get disheartened with the larger stuff. It does start like that, and it stays like that. Anyone else got any other questions?
I think actually, because it's interesting, we're speaking a lot about the process and everything, but everything okay, yes, basically. So in this community hall in Milton, and then Tamar put the dance floor of the Caravan Ensemble in the dojo, the samurai place. There is a place for the Dance Collective, and so that we manage.
Yeah.
But I think what is really problematic at the moment, and about this hub and getting together, is also because there isn't any theatre at the moment that you could have a partnership with in Brighton. And as you say, like, we are a lot of artists here, so of course we can go a little bit there and a little bit here. We can go to London now, and I feel, okay, I've worked a lot in Brighton, and then suddenly I feel that last year I worked mostly internationally, because that were the contacts that I had, and that's where I had a lot of work, and then I totally lost touch with Brighton, and then now trying to get all these contacts again, and that's where can I show my work? And in a way, I have this wish to find a space where that could be a center of people's work. Because I think you learn together, you study together, you do the classes, yeah, that's technique, you have dinners together. But then there's also about sharing work and showing what you do. And sometimes you can't do it in a community hall, because you need a certain light, that's a part of your work, and that's your atmosphere. You need a projector, and I feel that's really what we're really poor here. There's lots of pubs, there's lots of little theatres. I mean, you see the program of the Brighton festivals, and I know that there is this fire that starts, but until then it's all set up. And sometimes, I'm just going with the most sometimes as well, just to try to find a place that we can just get in and make the theatre like tomorrow. Yeah, we will that one because it's cooking for a while. But I think that's really the difficulty, and even the Nightingale, like, was the last result, and everybody was hanging on to it, like, no, I will have these 2 days. Oh, she's doing this 1 week. But it was because Stephen was so open, and now the change that has happened, and he's himself, I think, looking for a space. And I think that's really difficult as a dance movement performance artist in Brighton, that there's not really the sharing of showing work, or the place where people can really take risks, because the Dome will not take risks, and they don't want in the studio theatre risks. They take risks on a much higher level and a much higher scale.
But also, you want to show work in the right environment. Because you don't want it to have to be show ready, ready to go, all your dancers fully. You want to be able to show something's work in progress with an audience that's receptive to that. And we've seen things go on at larger theatres, and it is a platform, isn't it? And you get a critique there, going, "Oh, that's awful." It's actually, that was 2 weeks play. That's quite interesting. There's some really good seed ideas from that. you don't want to be overexposed within your process either. So yes, you want to share your work, you want to go to platform it. Actually, if you do want to engage with it, then maybe you need to, that maybe it's a completely different place. So there's an interface, there's a space that's not the corner exchange or the that Nightingale space, I guess it is, isn't it really?
Well, I am running the Dance Network in conversation with South East Dance at the moment to create something like that. So we're conversation with South East Dance about getting into the Dome Studio Theatre or the Old Market Theatre to do a scratch night, but at the same time I'm currently building a relationship with a big church space out in Kemp Town to use as a more informal space, so that there's that kind of, I can't think of any other word I don't need here, but kind of just a different level, different type of event. So you can do something that's more risky in the kind of church space that has dance floor. It doesn't have the lighting element, but does have some other technical things like projectors and stuff. So there is a more exploratory space, and then that's much more casual, you can get feedback and stuff. And then something as well at a more established venue, where you can perhaps show something a little bit more finished. And then as part of that, obviously there's the hope that showing something as part of a platform which is supported by, we have the cloud for South East Dance behind us as well, that then that's starting to become an in, and that's certainly something which we're in the process of getting going soon. And it will be.
Yeah,
unfortunately not soon enough.
No, we're working on it.
One of the benefits of moving times is that it's linked into Oxford Dance Festival, so it's a separate festival.
Dance in Oxford.
Dancing in Oxford is a separate festival that is still run by Claire, but it's a separate entity. And to Oxford Dance Forum, but Oxford Dance Forum, their platform is within that festival, so it's in the festival advertising and marketing and stuff like that. And that's the actual platform as opposed to scratch opportunities. And obviously you guys have done the platforming, but prior to a performance, it's full ticketed people going to, say, the ballet boys, and then you've also had your scratch as well. So yeah, that sort of two-tier approach, but then benefiting from other events and other festivals and stuff like that also is a really good way in.
But there is still really that issue is everywhere, but places and spaces to perform in.
Yeah.
You know, that there's a place for work in progress and scratch nights, but there's still such a need for places that will put on shows so that artists can actually show work that people buy proper price tickets for. And then I think there's a real rumbling across performing arts about that kind of thing, about just constant work in progress. I just want to show the thing, it's done, I'm amazing,
But you know, if say for example the Oxford artists have been making their work and then they got the chance to showcase it at the Woking event, then that meant that people that were making work at Woking, you know, it's that sort of cross fertilisation. So maybe it's about you guys hosting an event with the Oxford artists coming so that they get a second chance to perform. It's not just a one performance, so they get a chance to perform yours and you get to potentially go to Oxford and show them your work. And things that come out of that are things like, you know, Yale going to Oxford and working with these guys and people with similar interests and, you know, styles. And then those partnerships and those relationships start, which is what makes it so interesting, I think. It is that crossover and that's the sharing of practice. It's not just always in the workshop environment.
I guess it's that any forum, group, collective, whatever, is mates with some promoters and some programs. You need them to see the work in progresses to get the confidence in the work to program it.
Because as soon as you perform outside, if you want to come in for say 2 days, the art festival, that could be say Oxford and Brighton, that's fine. If you came in for Oxford and London, that's automatically national touring application, which means it automatically competes against the opera companies, the theatre companies doing 50-day tours, and you're asking for a 2-day tour. So the benefits of you guys working cross-regional to find and give each other opportunities to platform work, which might only be a 10-minute or a 20-minute piece. You don't have to put on a full evening, but you're sharing those bills. Is phenomenal. That gives you access to levels of funding that you would really struggle to reach if you start adding London into the mix. You can always do London as well, but you need those venues on the ground in the region to start really start growing your work. So the more conversations you guys can have over Facebook, Google groups.
So that's interesting because, as you said, it's a big region. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think sometimes, oh yeah, but why I don't knock on the door of Worthy Theatre or of Chichester, or because when you get all the opportunities on mailing lists, it's normally will be London, or there's somehow these things that don't appear there. I don't know where to go to look for it. That means that I need to contact someone that I've seen the contacts of Working Theatre. I don't know, they don't know me, I don't know them. Hello. I just was thinking maybe we could, and so I think maybe that's what's missing as well, maybe a bit more links between. I mean, it's so interesting to sit here and to hear, because I don't know about if you're working with Milton Keynes and in Surrey, and say, oh wow, so there's other people struggling. So just to,
these guys know about theatres in their areas as well, so they know that actually there's great theatres down the road, but you know what, they're not going to give you a split, they're not going to give you any money, but you know what, it might be giving you a tour schedule. Alternatively, you know, this is a great space, but this is through the university and they'll only take X number of shares. You've got all of that information, you all share all that information collectively. They want to know about opportunities in Brighton. So I think it's just about finding that way to do it. And don't forget that in terms of Arts Council funding, we also include the East. So that is the Milton Keynes, but then it's the Luton, it's the Watford, it's the Albans, it's, you know, all of those places as well. So there's artists in the East that are desperate for opportunities to perform in the region and get their work shared on a platform. So, you know, think big is what I would say about your work.
So the South East is considered one region?
Yes.
Just to be really
yeah,
clear.
to be really clear. So right up to Norwich. So if you wanted to perform in Norwich and Brighton, it would come under the same region for the Arts Council. And, you know, all around, but we do that in London. As we know, they get lots of money, so. So yeah, so you can still perform in London, you can still do projects, but the more opportunities you can make in your own region, the better for you guys. You're just creating more opportunities. And like I said, where I can spot opportunities doesn't say I can just give you money, but if you can come up with an interesting project that meets the criteria and has match funding, then I can help develop. We can all help that develop, but we need to. It has to be coming from you guys, which is why I think the whole point of today has been really to encourage everyone to think about what they need and what you'd like to make happen. Because we're all willing to support, but there's only so much in this climate we can support with in terms of cash, but we're really willing to help you develop projects and listen to other people and find out how, you know, find your own way through it of what works for you and what would be best for you guys to benefit from. Really. So.
Great. Any pressing questions? And I see we've reached kind of what we planned for timing, but don't want to cut anyone short.
I just had a little question. Rosie's mentioned that Surrey Dance Collective is an unincorporated association.
Unincorporated association, yeah.
Okay. So I can Google that. And I also want to know because you're an independent person.
Yeah, person.
So I'm interested to know also about Oxford and what your kind of I don't know if that's
Constitution.
Yeah.
That's what we call it. It's the legal identity of.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that then has impact on funding.
Yeah, it has impact on funding, but you can be an unincorporated association, which means that you have a memorandum and a constitution, and I think we need to have a separate bank account for Arts Council funding now. But it does mean you don't have to become a limited company and pay accountants and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So if you think of the equivalent would be WY. The local WY group might be just a group that are unincorporated legally, but they have a separate bank account and they take subs and they use it for their own projects. But ITC have lots of information around some of that, and you can find it. But you shouldn't be paying £200, £300 to have a company set up. It's just a matter of a constitution and a small piece of paperwork. I mean, it's quite a good format to have, because if several of you making decisions, then having a bank account that you might want to pay subs into or put project funding into, which you have to make a decision two of you sign off for, is legally safer and more appropriate. But there's no, it also means that you as an independent can apply for funding in your own name from an arts council perspective.
We're happy to share our constitution as well with people that would like to see what that looks like.
That would be really interesting.
Yes. So I guess really just to go around, so you've got, how can they contact you? You've got a website, haven't you?
Yeah, surreydancecollective.com or surreydancecollective@gmail.com. Is our email.
I suppose I come with a couple of heads on it because I've got my individual stuff, which is just Helen Palmer. Put that in. Without the U, no U in Palmer. But also, I sit on the dance panel for Arts Gateway, which has got a space right next to the station, and they also have a partner company called Art Central, which is the space. So there's a space there as well, and there's also the Open University Dance group in Milton Keynes, which also runs some schools. And then you've got the IF Festival and the Fringe Festival in Milton Keynes. So there's quite a lot there that all partner up, and would love to collaborate as well with other people.
You've got your Buto network?
Yes, we are called Buto Brighton. So we've got a Facebook page, so if you just do a search Buto Brighton, and we've got a blog.
Blogspot.
Yeah.
Just Buto Brighton.
Yeah. Kept it simple.
Yeah, we're oxforddanceforum.com. The email address is Kyla, KYLAODF @gmail.com. And as an independent producer, you can get hold of me at kylalucking@gmail.com.
And just really quick, does Brighton Dance Network want to share how best to connect in?
Probably in our email, just parkbenchdancetheatre@yahoo.co.uk.
Park Bench.
Parkbench Dance Theatre.
And anyone else wants to share?
And obviously I'm the
And we are
main number.
Great. Well, on behalf of Savvy Staff, I'd like to say thank you so much for coming to the panel, to Denise, to everyone for sharing their thoughts and ideas. It's been, I think, a really, really good evening to start some conversations, and hopefully let's see where they might go. And on that, I think we'll cut the live stream. Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.